Hey guys, it's Nat, and you're listening to our first ever remote podcast with our guest, Erika Thom. She is a mommy of one. She has another baby on the way, and she's a pastry chef. She makes the most delicious cookies. I know, I've had them. Let's get into it. So Erica posted something on Instagram the other day that really kind of blew my mind because when you're pregnant, or at least first time mom, you have to do this glucose test that you don't really know much about. Or I didn't really know. They just said, here, drink this. And of course you listen to your doctor. So I drank it. It didn't taste great. It just tasted like a weird, thick, chemically something grossness. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to drink it. But Erica posted an alternative on her story. And I was like, oh my goodness. I wonder how many people experience something in the hospital or with their doctor and don't even know that they can pick an alternative. Can you tell me a little bit about your.
All of us, literally almost all of us don't know those alternatives.
Yeah, I think even in general, aside from that, just people knowing in the hospital that if your doctor's saying like, okay, we're going to give you Pitocin if you're feeling really bad, that you can tell them to turn it down. Like there's always room, there's always options, but it's never presented in that way. It's kind of like, this is what you get because we know best. With
And we're
the
not
glucose,
you're not educated as the person to know that there's
right.
That's why it comes across as like you just do what they tell you to do because they're the professional, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think with my first, I knew that I didn't want to have that dynamic. So I educated myself as much as possible and just went into this. Well, I did a home birth, which we can get to later, but the fear I had of being told I have to do things one way when that may not be the best way for me was something that I just did everything I could to make sure that if there was a healthier alternative, or even if I didn't take it, I just knew there was more options than literally the one that is given. With the glucose test specifically, it's called the fresh test, and it literally tastes like lemonade, not in a weird way. And I think it's just like real sugar and lemonade. It's not full of chemicals. And I actually have a story about that. So I was out of state. I had my packet with me. We were traveling at the time when I had to take that test. So I went to like a local LabCorp, took my fresh test, and they refused to take my blood because I didn't take the orange drink that they wanted to give me. And I am very hormonal and angry at this point because I'm like, for one, the fresh test is listed on the LabCorp's website. So I was like, you as an employee right now are being incompetent and you're not even trying to work with this very pregnant woman who is telling you.
We can request our own blood test at corpse. Not at hospitals, not at
Right.
the doctor's office, but at corporations that will test for blood. Like I learned this recently. So yes, you do have the right to fight for.
So I was losing my shit. Can I say that?
Please
AJ's in the waiting room and I'm back there just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I'm going back and forth with this person who I knew at this point, I'm like, they don't want to help me. This isn't going anywhere. And I was really upset because I just took 50 grams of sugar for basically no reason on an empty stomach at 7 a.m. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to leave. But now I'm stressed out because I need to get another packet. I'm all the way on the East Coast. My midwife is in California. I need to get another packet and get this taken care of in my window. Like you can only take it within like a week or two to really have like the best results of, if you have gestational diabetes or not.
Or like drinking it. Obviously not drinking and drinking.
Yeah, the glucose test has to be done around 24 to 28 weeks, but I'm saying she probably had just that window of time when you were there that you could have.
And I used it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, I have to get access to another packet. I need someone to like overnight this to me tomorrow. And then I need to find a competent person that is going to do this for me because I can't have my midwife do it. I was out of town. So I had a full mental breakdown in the parking lot. I'm like yelling at AJ, like, basically this woman's an idiot. I'm emailing corporate. I cannot believe that you would put somebody through this just because of your lack of knowledge. And it was just one of those, like, you just feel so helpless. You're like, I'm telling you, I'm showing her on the website. I'm like, this is what I like. I can take this as an alternative. And then I'm being told, well, no, we don't do that. I'm like, okay. So
I'm
I
paying.
was very worked up.
And
And you know what? It was,
agreeing.
I want to say it was the same day of, I did a baby shower with my family that day at my mom's. So then I had to like go home and make like a balloon arch and do all this stuff and be around people. And I was like,
happy.
this is just really terrible. But I say all that to say, then we were leaving town shortly after. We travel often. We ended up back in Arizona. Again, my midwife was in LA. So they sent me a new packet. I went in person to a local LabCorp here. I said, this is what I'm going to take when I make my appointment. Can you please confirm that I'm not going to have any issues because I'm not doing this again? And they were unaware that that was an option, but they were like, that's really cool. Let me ask my supervisor and just confirm and willing to work with me. And then I was like, it's literally on your website, by the way. Oh, I never noticed that. So even though they work for this, that doesn't mean anything. So after I confirmed in person, I was like, okay, I'm making my appointment for tomorrow. What is your name? What is your supervisor's name? Like, I need everyone's proof that nobody's going to put me through this again. Yeah. And I went in there, took it. It was no problem. But I just felt like it was one of those very telling moments of like, hey, I'm trying to do what's best for me. And like this system put in place is just making it so hard. Like they just don't want me to thrive.
Like it's just like the epitome of the American health system. It's like, you tell us what's right. You're guiding us. We're paying you lots of money in the other hand of it. Like, we are literally independently through corporations paying you so much in insurance. You're supposed to be telling us all these things. You're directing us. And then I show up and I'm educating the people that are sticking needles in my arms, and it should be cut. Like, yes, it's.
But that just goes to, that just goes to like show one little aspect of the entire pregnancy journey of things that could arise. And so I'm very curious to learn about your experience with your home birth with Luna.
Yeah. So I'm so sorry. The fresh pack that has the same, only because we jumped on to talk about this fresh pack. It's not the same thing that doctors provide you with when you take tests normally. So
there's no dyes, there's no chemicals. It's literally like sugar with like actual lemon flavoring. So it literally tastes like
obtain these? Like, how do you find these in case some women want this?
Yeah, they have a website, thefreshtest.com or .co, I believe. They are on Instagram. I can get you all of that so you can put it in after, but most midwife providers carry it. If you see a standard OBGYN, they may not have that, but that doesn't mean that you can't have access to it. You can order it yourself online. And then just let them know that that's your option. There's even more options. Like you can eat there's a specific number of jelly beans as an option. You can test your yes. You're like, Jelly Belly, hi, I need to take my glucose test. Can I get 25, please?
Times of purpley pear, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. There's different ways to get the same. All they're testing for is the amount of sugar and how your body reacts to it an hour from that. So 50 grams of sugar is 50 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
You can also opt to do, it's longer, but you basically just take your blood sugar every day.
Yeah.
And then you're
over
logging
time
that.
They show you. Right. Like,
but
only that, not the rest of these solutions.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, my provider carried them, so it was very easy, but before I even knew they did, I went in there like, do you guys have this? Because if not, I'll order it online. And then generally you would just go into your midwife's office and they would take your blood. But again, I wasn't in town, so I created an obstacle and it did not pay off.
Well, kind of. After like a second attempt.
Yeah, after it.
And we're back to the question about the home birth.
Yes. So I knew as soon as I found out I was pregnant, that's what I wanted to do. It took me a little bit to get my husband on board because he was like, in our very normal minds, okay, if something happens and we're at home, what if? So my first step was my midwives are able to deliver at Cedars Sinai in LA. So that was our like happy medium. If I did have to transfer, I wasn't just going to be thrown into the care of somebody that I've never met before. I was going to have my same birthing team there to deliver. So that gave us both peace of mind, but mostly him. I think he was like, all right, again, if we have to transfer to the hospital, everything's fine. But then also just through my pregnancy and the amount of classes I took, the amount of like just information that I learned about how, especially for somebody like me, a woman of color, I'm actually safe for giving birth at home. As long as I have no pre-existing conditions, I'm having a healthy pregnancy,
You're monitored.
I'm going to have the least amount of interventions at home, allowing my body to do what it was literally designed to do.
Right.
So the stories I had heard of, again, just the incompetence that exists in the healthcare system. Just because you're a nurse or you're a doctor does not mean that you know anything about my body and where I'm at in my labor.
Or any
and that
pre-existing notions.
it's literally like the idea is so wild to me that you can never meet someone in your life and they have to deliver your baby.
Yeah, that is
That's like
that.
I'm like, what?
No,
No
God,
way.
if
And
you
that's the
think that way,
norm.
it's so wild. Yeah, that's
I
wild.
know. I
Yeah.
thought about it like that too, and I'm like, oh man, that is so true. You
Yeah.
haven't actually like a perfect stranger all up in your stuff, taking your baby out
That's
of you.
just like this is or telling you how your labor should be going. And you're
Or
like,
even
well,
knowing
yeah,
that
you
like
have to
high
feel
blood
safe.
pressure could be a thing, but I mean,
Right.
always a medical center when there's pre-existing notions like preeclampsia or something. But like when you know that
Yeah.
you're well enough to do what your body is literally designed to do. Home
Yeah,
birth
and a good midwife, a midwife who practices legally will also know if at any point, like let's say you meet with your midwife and you're 13 weeks and at 20 weeks something starts to look funky, they're going to say, okay, we are going to plan on delivering in a hospital. They can still be there to support you, but they will not even think about delivering at home because it's too much of a risk.
Yeah.
You're not
So
going to put your safety at risk if they are appropriated in midlife culture. Like, like
Yeah, they
yeah.
also don't want to lose their. I mean, I'm sure that my midwives decide to be midwives for a lot more than just the surface level reasons, right? Like they have the care and they probably
Yeah.
have, like I feel like even just the doula that we had on, her passion for being a doula, it's driving her to make the decisions that are best for the mommy. So
Yeah.
I would imagine that she planned for you. I mean, a good midwife, like you said, would definitely take you the
Yeah,
right.
making sure that safety that mommy and baby will be healthy no matter what. And you just because someone's a midwife, that doesn't make them necessarily follow that. So you also want to make sure if you are taking that route, maybe you know someone who gave you the reference, or maybe like I don't know, they have enough of a practice that's been running for a long time. So that's the one thing I will say if you are looking for a midwife anywhere, then you want to make sure that they are qualified and there's nothing that they've kind of overlooked for the sake of going against the system, maybe because there's
Right.
always like going to be some type of bias.
There's going to be an
potentially, but
outlier for sure.
right.
That's our whole
Yeah,
society.
so don't just find anyone would
Yeah.
be number one.
You have to vet people, and you put so much of your heart in your life, and literally there's nothing more than bringing a child into this life. Like when you vet a doctor, you go through this. When you vet a midwife,
Yeah.
that's your kid's life. So I'm
Yeah.
sure it's an innate thing when you choose a midwife to just know that you're vetting someone and making sure they're appropriate for you and whatever.
Yeah. And we don't often get in like a hospital setting, which is the craziest thing because you mentioned before, like we're paying insurance. So I remind people often that are having a hospital experience, like they're working for you. You're paying a lot of money, or your insurance is paying a lot of money, which you pay for all of this service that you're being given. You can always ask for a different nurse if someone's not treating you right. You can even ask if there's another doctor. Normally with labor and delivery, it could be tricky because that's what I found. Like, I think it's so rare for someone's actual doctor to be there when they go into labor. Even my backup doctor was like going on vacation on my due date anyway. And I was like, I'm not even gonna see you, but if I did have to, like, you also wouldn't be there.
We've had this.
And it's just the norm.
Exact, like, I'm glad you're advocating for it and advocating for yourself, but like not actually, like we had the same thing. Like I know that there's a practice of doctors that could be labor and delivery because you could do it at any time, and like they have vacation days, they have times that they're going to be off, they have times they need to be off. Nat was like, I didn't realize this exactly, but then when she did, she was like, I am interviewing every single one of you. And
yeah, I had a rotating team, I guess.
Yeah, which is common too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super common. But I was like, oh, because I had just finally started to like my OBGYN. And then I found out she was pregnant. I was like, oh, so how far along?
Selfish.
So
congratulations.
yeah, I was like, great. Okay. So then, yeah, I right before I found out pretty late on, I was like 6-7 months. So I made an appointment every day of the week to meet with all the doctors that could possibly give birth to my baby, or and the only one that I didn't actually meet with ended up being the one that delivered my son.
She's like, yes. No, it's and that's why when you have a midwife, do they have that type of disclosure? I mean, obviously you're gonna have days off, but like, do they have a team?
So they normally will only take on X amount of clients for the month. And so maybe that's 5 or 6 depending. My midwife team here, there's just one lady, and she has various assistants that will be assisting her on the birth. If ever something happens, any of those assistants are also midwives themselves. So if she were to not be available, there is always a backup. With my team in LA, it was a team of 2 women. And then they also had assistants that were training to be midwives. My labor was so long, I think everybody that was employed by them ended up at my house at some point throughout, because they were just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to go now, but so-and-so will be here soon. But I actually ended up kind of having a choice, I think, because they didn't have anyone going into labor around that time.
Nice.
So they were like, well, either of us are available, like up to you. But we kind of alternated appointments. So every other time I would see one of the other midwives. And that was good enough for me. I will say my doula was the biggest support because she was coming over like, I thought it was like every week. It may have been less than that, but she would spend like 3 hours at my house. We would talk about
a long time to get to know each other.
That is a long time, I know. Yeah. We were chatty, but she really got to be a part of the family, and she would check in on me. You know, my husband and I would sit there and talk with her about what to expect, different things that we could do to, you can't really make labor smooth, but like things that can help
to
labor.
alleviate a lot of the brain stuff. the mind stuff more so than the
Yeah.
body stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so that was I'm like, wow, this is all I know now is that you really get to know the people that are part of your birth.
Yeah.
Um, so when I got pregnant with my second, I'm having another home birth. I was like, I have to find a whole new team. Oh my gosh, I have to get to know these people. And at the same time that it was stressful, I also felt grateful that I'm even able to do that and that I don't just have to go to some OBGYN who maybe doesn't have great bedside manner and just kind of get thrown in with whoever and have to have my guard up in such a vulnerable place.
Just to like talk about that experience, like if you have your midwife or your doula, if you're getting to know someone that well, like just for anyone that's newly pregnant, it's the normal amount of times that like you see your OBGYN or you vet them, like you get like, first of all, you see a nurse that you're never going to see in the delivery room. You see a nurse for most of the time. My OBGYN did not see my vagina until like 8.5 months pregnant. So like,
That's so crazy
and
to
he
me.
was great. He, rest in peace, he's amazing. He had so many great clients. I was referred to him. He saved my daughter's life, but you do not know these people. You don't spend 3 hours. You spend maybe 5 minutes and they ask you the questions.
Yeah.
You know, so if anyone's watching this, like just know that maybe if that's the thing you need, the support you need, it's such a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy to think. I never thought about it that way either. Like, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
And we usually
literally
don't.
taking a baby out of me, and they maybe should know.
So I'm like still mind blown because I wanted to do a home birth for like one day. And then my
And then my baby was 12 pounds.
let me tell you though, all right, I was like, I don't know, because I had so much anxiety, and obviously, like now, looking back, I'm like, those are stories you created. You could have been fine, but I was, in our culture, in Latina culture, you just go to the doctor, you get your ultrasound, you go to the doctor, it's just what
Yeah.
you done. It's
And you
still
don't complain about it.
you don't complain. You don't complain.
Most cultures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking from just like my family and the girls in my family. I mean, I have a lot of cousins that have a lot of kids. And it's always just been that the idea of having a home birth was something that they were thinking I was crazy for even saying the words.
Right.
But I watched the business of birthing.
Birthing.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, one, I was like,
Everyone needs to watch that.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, honestly, Erica, we should probably, and I told Audrey this before, we should probably produce it again, but with like higher quality, more updated footage.
oh, not Ricky Lake.
First of all,
That was a full circle moment for me, by the way. I literally used to watch Ricky Lake with my stepdad and eat potato chips, and my mom would come home and she's like, "You let her eat chips? Is she watching Ricky Lake again?" And then I was like, "AJ, we have to watch this movie." Ricky Lake? Is that you? Yeah.
you know
I was
what?
like, "Mom, I'm watching Ricky Lake."
It graduated. It was like became the family problems that she now like is solving from their birthing experiences coming into this world.
No, it was powerful. Honestly,
Yeah,
I was like,
but low key, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it that if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's just very mind blowing and definitely thought provoking. And so it had me thinking that for a second. And then I just, obviously I went the other route that I thought was like what worked for me at the time, right? But I'm so curious to know the home birth experience. Can you just give me a little bit of a breakdown of the first one and then what you learned and what you want to implement for the second one?
yeah. So I would say, first of all, there's no wrong way. Like, I think there is a bit of a stigma about people who do home birthing or people calling hospital births not a natural labor if you have an epidural or any type of intervention. All birthing is natural. A C-section is a huge intervention. But that's how you had to have your baby.
You still had a baby. Yeah. Like,
Right. So I don't like the, oh, you did an epidural, or, oh, she does a home birth. It's like, it's what works for you. And honestly, right after I had Luna, I literally, had just got put on my chest. I was like, I will not do this again. That was like the first thing I said to my doula. I was like, why did I do it this way? And then, like, as we do, we forget how unbelievably insane we almost came to death feeling. And then,
you know, it's actually,
it wasn't an option for me to do it any other way, honestly. But yeah, I think whatever way is right for you is the right way. For me, that was the way that I felt in my soul was the right way for myself. And I was I labored for, in total, 30 hours, and I was not prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for anything, because everything I thought it was going to be, it was so much worse and harder. But I told everyone on my birthing team, do not suggest pain relief. Don't mention, hey, if this is too much, like, no, it's not too much. I'm going to do it. But just, so not a single person offered me, maybe we need to transfer. I started laboring around 2 a.m. And as they say, like, rest and eat something, just so that while it's manageable, you're going to go in with some energy. I took a shower. I shaved my legs. AJ was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. The next time I'm going to shave them. I'm going to shave my legs. And he's like, I think you should go back to sleep. I'm like, just let me be. And sure enough, I don't think I shaved my legs for probably another month. So I was like, aren't you glad?
So funny, but every mommy story, there's always that one thought that other moms are like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a really good idea. Like me, like, I'm like, damn, I didn't think about the legs, but I thought about the waterproof mascara. I thought about the waterproof.
Yeah. I didn't even think that was probably it, because then I was like, well, while I'm in the shower, I might as well. I don't know that I even ate anything.
Or like a sense of normalcy, right? Like sometimes, like, when you're heightened that much, you make yourself feel normal by doing something that's
right.
normal.
Yeah, like I'm doing my normal shower.
Yeah.
I went back to sleep, woke up around 7 a.m. and like they were a little bit closer together. Here, I thought I was going to have her like soon-ish. She wasn't born until 8 a.m. the following morning. But
24 hours,
I just got some food. Yeah, I was very unaware of how long it could have taken, even though I knew people can labor for 72 hours. Like if you're good, if everything is healthy and still going fine, like
stories
that's
where
normal.
people are like 4 hours. You have stories where people are like,
my friend did that. He had her baby. Yeah, my friend had her baby 2 weeks before me and was like, oh, I was at my nail appointment and my water broke. Within 3 hours, she was in the hospital. She didn't even get an epidural because she didn't have time.
Yeah, no,
and I was like,
my sister-in-law, same thing.
cool.
That's like
That
the
could be
craziest
me.
thing is why your brain, why our brains are like, we do know, we know how long it could be. Like I have friends that did 3 days, like, and I had friends that did 3 hours. We're like, it's not us, right? We're not going to be
that
the
couldn't be
longest, and
me.
we're not going to be the shortest. So like, but there's no fucking telltale sign. Doesn't matter if you're doing Pitocin, epidurals, home births, like these babies, they're going to come when they want to come.
And I think it's important to respect that, because I know the level of like how my contractions were. If I would have been at a hospital, as I've heard with other people, they end up getting convinced like, well, it's not going to get better. You're not progressing. I wasn't progressing.
Me.
For a lot of reasons.
You're talking to me. That was me. My contractions.
Yeah. And it's like, well, how fucking fast am I supposed to do this thing? Like, I'll get there. Shut up. Like, that's what I would tell a doctor. But luckily I didn't have anybody being like, all right, you've been like, you gotta, And I also can't imagine not being dilated enough and then being told like at a hospital, we'll come back when you're like further along. Like, so
Oh
you
my
want me
God.
to get back in the car and come back?
Yeah,
I
that
said,
that
no.
definitely.
They said, you're not dilating at all. And I said, I don't care.
The pain is still there. Like even if your cervix is not where it's meant to be, your
Yeah.
baby's still moving down. You're still feeling every wave and every sensation of a literal human swirling down through your lower back into the birth canal. And you're like, I'm sorry, what?
I feel bad. To this day, I feel bad because I gave birth in UCLA Santa Monica. And I remember that, Audrey. The joke is that I always forget where I gave birth. But I do remember. It's just a little bit of a joke. Okay, so where we lived and where the freaking hospital wasn't exactly the shortest ride. So I was feeling the contractions and I was like, I handled everything great. I labored in my house, in my bath. I was good. And then finally I couldn't be good anymore. And then there was like all these little bumps. We lived in Larchmont and there was all these bumps and like waves. And my fiance and I argue about his driving like literally every time we're in the car. And I remember like being like the exorcist, like being like, like get me out of this car.
Yeah.
Only to be met with a doctor like, I don't know. How far along are they? How long? Get me in the room! Like I'm like,
Yeah.
And you had a friend that was leaving right the day before you that got turned away. And I was like,
yeah.
But I guess the point is, it's like, you just never know what first
How
of all,
long it'll be.
Yeah, you don't.
The dilation opposed to contractions, I always thought in my mind those correlated. Like, the more the contraction, the more you're dilated. No, like that's the craziest part. That has nothing to. They do not correlate. Anyone that wants to know that, they don't correlate.
Yeah.
That has always been the craziest
Yeah.
thing.
Vagina. They don't.
No. They're just two opposite things of each other that both mean a baby's coming out of your vagina. That's it.
Yeah, and honestly, people are given Pitocin. That's just going to speed up your contractions and make them more intense, but it's not
Not gonna dilate.
going to equal you dilating.
Yeah.
So oftentimes women will be given Pitocin and then you go from like 2 to a 10. So you didn't even get to like inch up to the pain you're about to experience and let it come on naturally. You're just like giving it a supercharge. Okay, now I have really intense contractions and my body's stalling because I'm not feeling safe. Like in nature, if an animal does not feel safe, it's not just going to give birth to its baby.
Right.
And that is oftentimes how women will feel in that setting when they're just kind of being told what and they're feeling all these things. And I don't know, I have so much compassion because I know how I felt at my own home with not even really scary thoughts, just the amount of pain I was experiencing. Everybody was cool. My husband says all the time, he's like, I just kept looking around like, if you're on a plane and the flight attendants are chilling, it's cool. But if they look panicked, then you know to panic. And he was like, I thought like, is this normal? Like what she's going through? And nobody was like worried at all. So he then knew, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I kind of blacked out. I don't remember. I remember much of it from photos. I had a birth photographer there who was also a doula who was so helpful. She's an angel. But I had to look back and I was awake for over 24 hours with like in just excruciating pain the whole time. And I had back labor. I never felt an intense contraction in my stomach. And I was like prepared for that because I had really bad period cramps my whole life. I was like, okay, I know it's a degree of that. I have an idea. I never felt anything close to how bad my period cramps ever were. They were really subtle and then it just went to my back and I never felt another contraction in my stomach. And when I tell you, I was convinced that I fractured my spine. I was like, there's something wrong. I've heard that happens. I did have a rib out of place after, which I learned later, but I thought my back was broken.
Did you give birth on all fours, or did they turn you over, or no?
I didn't. I ended up giving birth on my back because we were in the tub, but I labored for so long. We got out. The tub got cold. They had to refill it up. I get back in like hours and hours later, and they couldn't get a good read on the baby. But that either means, okay, they're literally about to come out, so they're in the canal, or we need to transfer right away. Yeah. So they were like, you need to breathe. I'm like, I am trying to breathe, but I literally am in so much pain right now. Yeah, I was having like short breaths. They're like, well, remember, like your oxygen is giving your baby oxygen. I'm like, okay, well, fuck, that doesn't help me anymore because I'm still in pain. So they gave me an oxygen tank and we did do a cervical check and I was at 10 centimeters and they were like, all right, do you want to get back in the tub? And I was like, I'm not fucking moving. No, I'm going to give birth on this bed right here. There's no way I'm getting, like, no, it's not that serious. I'm fine. So I was on all fours, but I was just so exhausted. Like, I couldn't even have my eyes open for most of it because I was just like standing there asleep. Like,
Well, this is 30
oh,
hours,
this hurt.
right? 30 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I never looked at a clock, which I think is a great piece of advice. So you don't want to know where you're at because it doesn't matter where you're at. It's going to end when it ends. But unfortunately for me, the sun rose shortly after my labor started. And then it went down and then it rose again. And I was like, wait, it's been a day. That was when I said, can somebody just see what the situation is if I need a transfer? Because at this point, I'm so exhausted. And an epidural can let you rest because you're not feeling all of that that's keeping
all
you
the stuff
awake.
that's going on.
Yeah. And AJ, like my husband, he always laughs. He's like, there was no way we were going to get you downstairs into a car, into a hospital, check it, like where you were at, the idea that that was a solution. But my doula was like, I think you're closer than you realize. And that's why you are ready to not even give up. But I was like, I don't have enough energy like left in me to even breathe right. I can't keep my eyes open. So I was on all fours, really trying. And it was so hard for me to even hold myself up on all fours. So I laid on my back and I couldn't even hold my legs up. I had my husband on one leg and my doula on the other. And I felt like I barely pushed. That was the easiest part of the entire thing. Everyone's like, oh, you get like, it feels like a ring of fire. I'm like, I will take a ring of fire every day for the rest of my life. And that is nothing compared to back
40
labor.
hours of labor, of back labor. Yeah, no.
Like my vagina can burn. I'm good. Like it's manageable. That's like, and it's such a superficial feeling. Like where you're used to some type of discomfort on the outside of your body. The inside of your like your womb is something so different. So that was the easy part, but it was really beautiful that I was able to just be in bed and I had my baby and I laid there and yeah, my friend ordered me Spartina. I love their pizza with the spicy chili oil and the honey. My other friend ordered me some really delicious like soup and broth from like Koreatown. She was like, "Oh, I went to this place once." I was like, "This is the best soup I've ever had in my life."
My friend got me
Like
bone broth as well, and I was like, "This is phenomenal, salty
it
good."
was so yeah. It was so good and I just
Bell or something.
you deserved it. You earned it.
Why not sushi though? I thought mine would be sushi. My postpartum meal probably was. So
I'll tell you what though. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I'll tell you what. Again, my pregnancy was not planned. There was no preparation. Maybe a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, there was a little bit of preparation, but I wish I would have thought about after. Because then you have your baby, and leaving a hospital, it's basically like this. Here's your baby. Bye now. Put the baby in the car. Up, car seat check. All good. Go home. And then you're home with a new baby, and you're like, now what?
Who is this outside?
Yeah.
What do I do now? Like, it was so shocking because we were there. I had Edrius on a Friday, I think, and then we didn't leave till Sunday morning. So we were there every night. And it was so convenient. I pushed a button and somebody would help me. I pushed a button and somebody did that. Like, I was like, this is amazing. Then I get home and I'm like, where's my button?
Mm.
So,
Yeah, the village is real. It's so needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was home, but then yeah, everybody left. I had my doula. She literally spoon fed me like my very first meal, which was this delicious bone broth butternut squash soup from Erewhon.
Mm.
You're making
It's
me
so
hungry
yummy, you
today.
guys. It's
I
very
know.
cozy.
Hungry all day.
It's really good.
Please
Um,
all sour.
yeah, but she fed me that, and I was like, this is so nice. And then everybody left. Luckily, my mom flew in the morning after. But it was so funny because you would think after being awake for that long, you would finally sleep when your baby gets there, and then they're
No.
there and they're sleeping, and you're just staring at them. Like, we were just so happy. We're like, look at her. Just look at her. We really need to rest, right? Like,
No,
but
there's
just look at her,
sleep
you
happening.
know?
And then that, like sweetness and also the anxiety. You're like, is she gonna die? Is she breathing? Like,
I didn't take her off of me for months. And that is something they also don't tell you, I feel. Well, and maybe not everyone experiences it too. Everyone's different.
Right.
With me, I felt separation anxiety because she was not in my body anymore. And I never heard of that. Nobody told me that I would feel you actually feel that emptiness because there's like all that space is gone.
yeah.
But if she wasn't on me, I was like, I don't like this. I just carried this child for 10 months and now
I
I'm
made
not
this
used to
child.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom, she's like, you got to rest. And I would lay there and try to take a nap. And she would literally be outside of the door with the baby. Like, and I'm like, I need her blanket. Like, I needed something. And I couldn't be separate from her.
Right.
And so I understand as a baby, when that's all, like, she only knows me too, why it's so important for our babies to remain close to us, especially in those first few months. Like, she literally slept on my chest for 2 months.
Yeah.
My sleep wasn't great, obviously, but I knew she was safe. I slept on my back and I slept with her right here and I could feel her moving always. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't have to do the,
I
oh,
got so
wait. And
much
then,
shit for co-sleeping, but I was like, first of all, I'm not comfortable not having Ella, my daughter, with me. She will not sleep without me. So for the both of us, if we want to get any rest, that was the solution. But like constantly you're met with the scrutiny of sleeping with your baby, sleeping in bed, sleeping with your chest,
yeah,
falling asleep with near you. And you're like, but this is what innately I feel is right.
that's
I'm gonna do
natural. And
right.
who the fuck is sleeping so hard? I'm sorry that you're rolling onto the child in bed with you.
I don't know one
Yeah.
I
person.
barely
It's
slept.
not
I
me.
still haven't slept that hard. Like,
I wish. I beg. Like, no.
yeah.
From that moment, from pregnancy to today, I cannot tell you that I've had sound sleep, not once. Even I could sleep long periods of time, but my ass is waking up and going back to sleep, waking up. I have not had like a
Yep.
sound sleep in so long, and I'm okay with it because I know like these days are so numbered. Like they're limited, right?
Short,
They're
yeah.
Like
long,
my
but
son,
the days are short, right?
exactly that part. My son's already getting taller than me. Like I'm not gonna have much longer to have this moment where I can just wake up and go lay in bed with him, or like like those things are gonna be unavailable. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go sleep. We didn't go sleep until recently, but I still take him to his bed in the middle of the night, and then I end up waking up with him. I don't know how this happens.
It's for both of you, though. I think that's like a good bonding experience.
Yeah.
Having though now you're pregnant, how's that going? You're pregnant, right? So
I'm very pregnant.
how much is
Yes.
the loss of sleep when you're still like feeling these feelings or
And you
co-sleeping?
had the toddler and the pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was joking because I was on a flight once without my husband, and I was like, I literally have 2 babies on my bladder and I have to pee and I'm on a window seat. Like,
to get up
They
to
don't
like
care about me. Can somebody move?
they really
Um,
don't. The people are
no,
assholes like these
they're
days.
so selfish. It honestly, it's been really special having my toddler say "Mama's so big."
Oh,
So sweet. Um, no, but
cute.
she is so nurturing. She reminds me a lot of myself when I was her age. I didn't even know until I went through photos recently at my godmother's house. And there's photos of me with all of these baby dolls, and they're all sitting up how my daughter does. She lines them all up and she'll give them a blanket, a bottle, and she's never seen me take care of anybody but her. But I think it's really sweet because I'm like, I think she'll take well to this. But on the challenging side, that's not so sweet. The exhaustion in my first trimester with her was terrible, but I was able to sleep.
Right.
This time I was so tired, and she definitely knew something changed within me because it was as soon as I found out I was pregnant, which was like 4 weeks and 1 day, my child stopped sleeping through the night. So I went from like thinking, okay, at least I can get 7 or 8 hours in, which is still not enough for me. I was a 10-hour, 11, like 12 on a weekend
My sister.
Wow.
girl before kids.
A dream.
I
First of
know. And now, like, no. So even if I get 7, I'm like, yeah, my husband can function pretty well on little sleep, and
my
I've
sister
always been a sleeper.
my sister had a kid. My sister had a kid the same time I did. And we kept saying, like, I'm going to function well. Like, I'm going to adhere to this lifestyle well because I've never been able to sleep my whole life. My sister literally needs 8 hours or she's a monster. Like, I swear to God, a
Mhm.
fucking monster. And she actually functioned. I mean, you all function how it's going to happen, but like you just, your body, your mind, she's now pregnant again with her second, and all I keep hearing, because she has a daughter that's almost 3, same age as Ella and Adrius, Nat's Nat and I's kid. And she's like, the sleep is, it's very different. Like you're so exhausted, you have a toddler and you're doing these same things, but you don't realize the energy that you spent having your first kid. Now you're doing
Mhm.
that and you're going to go into having birth another. So like, she's like, I don't know if it's like, I'm scared to not have that energy and have a toddler, but be as tired as I was the
Yeah.
first time around, or if like, it just,
Like,
it
does it
all
just work out?
this
Yeah.
just, it has to, right? Like we're all fucking
Yeah.
kids. So like,
It has to. Yeah.
Parenting, there's no cutting corners. Someone's
yeah,
gonna have to change the diaper. Someone's gonna have
Yeah.
to do food.
There's no break. Like, you don't just get to be like, I'm really tired today. I just can't be a mom.
No.
Like,
like,
that's it.
listen,
Like,
Bob.
you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I I actually have the same exact feelings as your sister with that because my daughter is like everything that she needs, I give her. All day. Emotional support, food, whatever. The idea that I am already tired, not newborn phase tired. Although I will say, I think the first trimester tired it's not,
That's a next
it's
level.
almost worse.
It's the,
Like, I literally felt like I was lifeless. At least when and you're so tired, but you have your newborn, they give you those like little bursts of like oxytocin and endorphins and like just enough to keep you going until bedtime.
right.
First trimester, you're like, my body is like, I'm working overtime right now. And I just didn't have any extra emotional capacity to take on my toddler's needs, which was really, really hard for both of us. And then she wasn't sleeping well. I'm like, girl, if you sleep through the night, mommy will be a lot happier in the daytime. And like, you're not helping yourself here because I know I'm not like, they totally sense it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's gotten better since, but the first trimester was terrible. And it put me into a really bad mental space because all I was comparing was that to when the baby's here. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I really don't. And my husband's like, well, you're gonna have to,
You
for
have
one.
to.
Like, we're,
And you're like,
this
fuck
is it's
you.
happening.
Yeah.
And you can, ultimately, you can. I just know it doesn't feel like you can right now.
Right.
And I still have days though where I'm like, how am I going to manage that? Postpartum sucked with Luna. We don't have family around. Any help we have to pay for, which there's nothing wrong with that, but there's just something about like being able to just up and like, oh, my mom's here. We're going to go to the store. We're going to go do this, and not have to schedule everything out. Like, well, can we get a sitter for this time? Can our nanny stay?
Nat has that issue. So I
All
know
the
she
time.
you so often. Like
Yeah,
It's-
it's hard.
in regards to that.
You
What'd you
witness some
say?
of that where I'm like, I can't do this because I don't have my nanny, or my nanny's sick, or I don't have a babysitter. Like date
Yeah, and
nights
I
are
always get it because I'm like, same. Like, yeah, literally
Same, but
same.
like it's all annoying all the time. It's not
Yeah.
less frustrating all the time.
Yeah. So I think even with help, you your responsibilities don't go away.
nope.
So like I always have to like set everybody up for an alley-oop, I feel like. I'm like, all right, here you go. Just put the ball in the basket. It takes to get there is so exhausting that it's sometimes you're like, I'm not even gonna pass you the ball. It's easier for me to just like make the shot.
Oh, Erica with this analogy.
That's how I practice my whole life being. But when it comes to babies, like yes, that's thing. The last thing that I'll say about that, like my sister's going through it. I've just also recently, like since I have a baby mom group, they're all on their second baby right now. Like we all have 3-year-olds, and they're literally like, this is actually much easier. You know, like having this baby. Like I've heard this so many times. It's
I
not
will
even
take
funny.
it.
Yeah. So like to give you
Yeah.
this, alley oop you into a very good anecdote.
Yeah.
It's they have said like first of all the baby's better and the toddler's better with it. Like for some reason it all came to a
Wow.
culmination that you should have 2 kids or some shit like that. But
You know what? I agree. I've heard of that. Sorry, just to let you know, I've heard that so many times from people who have two. Giselle, one of my best friends, I was like, "Estás loca? How are you gonna do this? Are you crazy? Like, girl, what? What?" I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" I did her baby shower, so I was happy for her, of course. I was just like, "How is it? Tell me everything." And now the second baby's 1, her first baby's 3, and they entertain each other, and they're just
Yeah.
thriving together. And
And the
so
newborn
he,
is easier.
yeah, so maybe that's a positive, a little rainbow there for you, a little gold.
Yeah.
We're gonna put that out
I
there
hope
for you.
so.
Yeah.
I've heard when the transition from 0 to 1 is really tough. Normally it's not as bad from 1 to 2. And my whole life I've wanted to be a mom. I've always, like I said, with my toddler, like just had like I took care of my baby dolls, and then I went to school to be a preschool teacher, and I've wanted kids. So I thought for sure when I had a baby, this is what I meant to do. And it is. And being a mom isn't even the hard part, and taking care of Luna is not the hard part. It's all the other stuff that you have to take care of with yourself.
Erica,
That's
you
what's hard.
really mean like this is like on the podcast. This is who I am. I was like, I thought I raised all these kids, like all my nieces, nephews. I wanted to be a mom so bad. And like it makes you feel it's some shame that you had because you're like, why am I not able to totally excel at this like thing that I thought my whole life I could?
Yeah.
And it's just
You're
like,
like, why is it so hard?
why?
And it's not hard loving them. It's literally not even what it entails. It's all the stuff that you don't realize it entails, which a lot of that is like mental space
And
and emotional space,
Yeah.
and then being a good partner and being good to yourself. I'm like, the only thing that is important is her. And now I'm going to have 2. Well, there goes everything. Like it took me this long to feel kind of, all right, I think I can balance doing things for myself here and there. and I'm going to have another kid. Like to me, that seems even more impossible, but I found it's like not even social, so like societal pressures, but just who we were before. Like, I literally wonder what I did with so much free time before I had kids that I ever thought I was busy or tired. I'm like, what? You were so lazy? You did what every day? That's
Yeah.
nothing.
I apologize to my sisters, my moms, or anyone that had babies before me.
Like, I don't think people who don't have kids realize how much free time they have. And I mean that from like the pit of my core.
Yeah.
Just like when I hear people say they're tired, and I don't want to be like, bitch,
You're not
but
tired.
like, time, like,
But
at the same time, I'm like, you're tired.
yeah.
Tired
Yeah,
though.
my
Like,
husband tells me he's tired. I'm like, shut up.
oh, but
Yeah.
Erica, I will say this, and then we can kind of wrap it up because I know we've been this is an amazing conversation. We could talk for days, I feel like. But I wanted to say something that I feel like inspired me a little bit. We get caught up sometimes on like how we lose our identity or how we don't have time for ourselves because we're so invested and emotionally like available for our kids, and whatever little energy we have to give it to our partners, otherwise we're failing in that. Or there's that feeling of failing yourself because you're not doing what your passions were, or you're not fulfilling
Yeah.
the things that you once had a goal to achieve. But the thing is that like it's not a loss of an identity, it's the start of a new one. So like what you do from here on out, even if it is just taking a day, an hour or two to carve out for yourself when Luna naps, like you can prioritize that time for you and make it only yours. And I feel like it's something that should be demanded as a mom, as
Yeah.
a woman. Like, hey, husband, partner, fiance, whatever, I have probably 10% battery left and I really want to take this for me. Can you just try and just I'll set everything up for you for the alley oop. Don't bug me though. Don't bug me though. I'm going to take this time for me. And there's something that now is like a no, like I cannot, if I don't get it, you could tell that I don't have it, like in my household.
Yeah.
So it's demand. Yeah. Demand what you need. And also, if your cup's not full,
No one else has
Girl,
enough
yeah.
fucking even half full, right? Like,
No,
no.
and that's it. And I think it's that balance. It's really figuring out when enough is enough and not getting to that point of where you're literally running on E, trying to make it somewhere. Cause like you don't have it in you and you don't even know how it got to that point. And then you look back and you're like, well, I haven't had a minute to myself, an actual intentional minute to myself without anybody around me
Mhm.
to recharge or without still thinking about responsibilities for
Yep.
the kids or whatever you need to get done. Yeah, I think like being proactive with that is probably such an important thing because for me, I'm like I'm like I have 2% and I'm going to die or we're all going to die. Like
I think too, like, I just think that you ladies are like me, and there's a lot of people like us. There's a lot of moms like us, and there's a lot of people that are not. When people offer help, I'm a person that's like, no, I help others. People don't help me. It's hard for me to accept it. These days, especially having another kid, like, no, I don't want to tell you how to do something. I'm just gonna fucking do it. I'm like quickly learning that, like, no, listen, I need you to just step in and help. And I'm just gonna accept it these days because like
yeah.
it's not something. I think it's a lot of women these days. We don't like to accept help because we feel like we're
Well, I think because nobody does it right
Right.
or the way that we need it done.
Right.
So it's not even wrong, but my mom actually brought that to my attention. She's like, it's very hard for people to help you because you want things done a certain way. And if it's not done that way, you tell them, and then that discourages people from wanting to help you again.
Yeah.
And my response is like, well, can't they just do it that way? Like,
Can't you
is
just
it
be
so hard? Like,
Right.
but I also, and it's easier, I think, once your kids are a little bit older. Like now, I don't care how my husband feeds my daughter or whatever has to be done to get to the end goal. But when you have an infant and a newborn and like you're timing everything, I swear to God, I got so good at math because I'm like, all right, I nursed 3 hours ago. Yep, it's time. Like from doing this math,
She's
how
gonna
long
poop
did they
in 1
eat?
hour and 12 minutes from now. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
like from that, and I'm knowing like for me, there's no room for error. Everything has to be, they have to eat at this time. And then when they start to get a little bit older out of newborn phase and you need to keep them on a nap schedule, it's like there is no straying from this because it affects my sleep.
Mhm.
So like everything has to go exactly how I need it to go because that's what I found gets me sleep. But it also can make it a lot harder because then I'm the one trying to juggle everything instead of saying like, all right, I need to give you these 2 things on your plate so I don't have 10 on mine.
Relinquish the things
Yeah.
that will help us in the long run. But
Mhm. Erica, I think the word balance is so important because it's really important more so for the moms, I think, to keep kids on schedules because ultimately we're the ones that are like, hey,
You
if
have to
she
pay
needs to
for it.
suffer, we're suffering, right?
so you breastfeed for 2 years. Like, no, DJ's not getting up to breastfeed our baby in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like you have schedules.
So I realized there's this term called rackets, right? So like we create these rackets. So I get so pissed when Mo wouldn't just take the trash out on his way out the door in the morning. Like I would get livid because it's like I'm asking you to do one simple thing while I'm the primary parent. I could list all the things I'm doing and you can't remember to take out the fucking
Yeah.
trash. Are you crazy? And that was always like how my day would start in a negative
Mm,
way. And then I would notice, wait a second, I could just take the trash out myself. I know it's another thing. Is it really worth putting
ugh,
this negative energy? Is it really worth me creating this negative space for my son, for myself? But now my mood's annoyed. I got to start my day and keep going throughout the whole day with this negative thing in my head. If I text him, now we're getting into an argument. Everything stems that is negative over this one thing. So I started doing something different. And by the way, this is really hard for me. Very hard. When I would see that the trash wasn't taken out, I would put it in my notes. Can't believe you did this. But I never sent it. And I took out the trash, dumped it in the trash, and then the day was great. Then
wow.
slowly, when Mo started to realize that he wasn't doing the trash thing and it was getting taken out on its own, he started taking out the mother effing trash without me even having to ask.
Well, I'm glad
So,
he noticed, first of all.
yes.
Or not.
But
That's good.
it's just one example of these rackets that we allow to mess up our freaking day. And I'm psycho, Erica, when I tell you that if I see a fork in the wrong part of the freaking utensil thing,
Yeah.
I'm livid. I'm like crazy. So when I started to just really see that I was allowing myself to get into a negative place over something so simple and just changed it myself, our relationship and things started shifting in a more positive way. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying that I don't have
Yeah.
moments where I
I'm
still
like,
send
good
those
for
text
you.
messages. I'll still do it sometimes, but it did help a lot. So, balance.
Yeah.
Maybe have
Yeah.
the easy thing. You have the other things that you do.
My notes app is full of those, like, you're so annoying. Let me just vent to my notes for a minute. I should delete them at this point.
That's better, I think, then because at least you're getting it out. And I think again with when you have kids, you literally have to take on so much emotional just emotions really from a toddler especially, and then you're regulating your own. I feel like I don't have time to regulate literally anyone else's emotions or even think about that. And that was postpartum, the biggest um shift was like going from just focusing on my partner's emotions and needs and picking up on those signals. Hey, is something bothering you? To like, I am so tired. I don't know how I feel right now. I cannot even ask you how you feel because I don't even know what I would do with that information.
Yeah.
So,
And I have
like,
to
and it
protect
just
this one at
be,
all costs.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're kind of like,
yeah. And I still haven't figured that one out totally because I'm like, well, I don't know how I feel some days. And I was so in tuned with Luna's needs. And again, like we're just kind of operating on autopilot.
Yeah.
Um, that space that you once held for like, oh, I kind of notice your energy's off. And checking in and having the space to do that. Literally, I'm like, we are both so tired. We have a newborn. It's just us two. We have part-time help, which didn't come until Luna was almost 7 months. So for the first 7 months, it was literally my husband and I
Crazy.
with never somebody to like tag team. Like,
Yeah.
all right, can you tap in? We need, both of us just need to like get out of this. And that wasn't an option. And I think about all the time the village thing. And I think about probably ways that are way more efficient to handle the rackets and the things that you're just like, when you change the diaper, can you not leave it next to the just silly things
But they're
that
annoying.
don't really matter, but it matters when it's like the top of like
When
someone
you're
just pulled out a
already so
Jenga piece.
emotionally depleted, like emotionally
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my Lord,
I tell you, I hear you so loud and clear because I'm that exact same way, and it took so long for Mo and I to even like, as far as like not even TMI. Fuck it, it's TMI. My fiance and I, for a long time, we didn't even hug each other because we were just like, ugh, I'm tired.
Yes,
Like,
you're just like passing ships. Like we're just
ships passing in the sea. That's what I was gonna say.
yes.
like go here, you be good. You
4 or 5 for your oldest is when you like kind of regain like some respect for your partner. Like
that's
4 or 5.
4 or 5 for your oldest. For your oldest, not your youngest.
Mine just turned 2.
Mine just turned 3. I'm going. I'll tell you how it is when I get there.
You're almost there. Yeah.
Well, look, everything that you're feeling is valid, and I'm right here with you. And I know for a fact Audrey's right there with you. It doesn't get easier. You just learn to navigate at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And it's all communication, balance, and just being aware of yourself. And that goes for our part.
And I'm excited to know how this next baby, the birth, and then also just the interactions, because I do hope that it's as good as like all the other mamas are going, especially because I'm trying for another. So I need some guidance, but I hope it goes, smoother, and I'm sure it will. I'm hoping.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we know more now. So already
Right.
the stress of like checking my app every week to see what size fruit my baby is. I don't even know. My mom's like, so how far along are you now? I'm like, she's like, let me check my app. She has the app now. Because I'm like, so I think the lack of ability to really care about things that you just don't have the space for, it could work in your favor when you have a second.
I think so. Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, people have been having kids for literally the entire length of this world, the entire time. So, and they didn't have the apps. And so,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the less you know.
Okay, I love it. There's a lot of really fun pieces of this conversation that I'm excited to share with people. I can't wait for people to listen.
Yeah, me too. It was so good talking to you both. I wish I could be there.
I know.
That's fun. Maybe too when you're in LA. Well, sounds good. All right, guys, we'll follow Erika at Erika Thom, right?
THOM. Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow, Talk Baby to Me PC, all the fun things. And until next time, bye.
Bye.